man. It's the day after UFC 312, the greatest card of the year, one of the greatest cards of all time. So I'd like to get into it and just, go over all the fights on the card one by one, not really getting into much detail on most of them, but I would like to talk about the main event, the co-main event to an extent, and some of the wars, right? Because in my prediction video for this card, I did predict we would get some fight of the year candidates on it just based on how shitty of a card it is, and we got that. So I'm pleased at the quality of some of the undercard fights, but then, as is to be expected, man, the co-main and the main, like, yes, I get it, we got very dominant performances from both champions, and you may have enjoyed aspects of those fights, but dude, Sean Strickland, I just simply can't defend you anymore. I simply cannot defend Sean Strickland anymore. He's tough as nails, right? Like, no one can deny that. Like, when he says to the death, you can see that the man is actually willing to die in there, but he's not willing to take risks. That's the difference, right? There are fighters out there like DDP. DDP just runs in with reckless abandon, takes all the risks in the world. He was open for counter shots. He was over swinging, way overextending on some shots. And Sean Strickland, like, he took advantage at points where he's actually throwing right hands. But for the most part, the dude is completely frozen, has nothing as far as real offense, damaging strikes, and he got away with it a bit in that first fight. He got away with it a little bit, right, because the damage accumulation on DDP's face was, I guess, enough to sway certain people into thinking that Sean did enough to win the fight. But go back and watch, and that performance was not far off this one, in my personal opinion. That might be controversial, but it's true. The main difference here is that DDP was more active, and he was disrupting Sean at every point, man. And Sean deserves respect for sure for the toughness displayed, but he sure as hell doesn't deserve excuses. And you guys know how much I love excuses. And of course, I mean, it's a bit surprising, to be honest, because he's not fighting Izzy, and this isn't an Izzy loss. Usually, like the JRE experience and that whole group that they do the companion streams with, like, usually they cope and make excuses for, like, fighters like Izzy. I didn't expect them to make excuses for Strickland, but let's just take a look at that really quick, man.
That was an ass whooping.
Technical ass whooping.
I wonder if there's more to it. I wonder if there was something up with him.
I wonder if there's more to it. I wonder if there's something up with him.
Real well, man.
Yeah, I'm not taking it.
There we go, Joe giving the credit. Didn't have the gas, as if Sean didn't fight exactly as he always fights. Oh, sorry, he threw 3 less jabs than his last fight. Must have been injured.
You mean Sean didn't?
Must have had a slip disc.
He got hit more in this fight than I think any fight.
Fucking 2 dislocated shoulders.
It was one big punch.
It was one big punch, according to Brian Callen.
Bro, he got beat up.
Brian, his nose is
Like, look at
Bro, he got beat up.
it is honestly funny from Brian Callen, like the way he's trying to convince himself that it was just the one shot to the nose that fucked everything up. No, Sean Strickland lost every round of that fight. You'd be generous to give Sean Strickland a round just based on the lack of activity, the last of real consequential strikes. Even if Drickus is missing like 90% of the big punches he's throwing, he's still landing big punches as opposed to Sean Strickland landing none. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a little run through of the JRE companion stream, because there was a little bit of cope going on, a little bit of disingenuousness, and like, what is it, like, why is it so hard to give DDP credit? It's so hard for someone like Brendan Schaub to just outright say, yes, DDP won the fight fair and square. But no, Sean Strickland didn't have that gas, man. Did he gas out? Did Sean Strickland gas out? Am I insane here? He gassed out more in the first fight than in this one. What the fuck are we talking about? What are we talking about, man? I don't want to hear the bullshit anymore. I don't even want to see this guy as a main event. I'm sick and tired of watching this guy for 5 rounds. It's a punishment. It's almost as bad as watching Juliana Pena for 5 rounds. If anything, it's worse, because this motherfucker just throws jabs and teeps. He really does. And like, I don't understand it, dude. The way he talks, he should go in there and look so much differently than he does. He should go in there and actually try and slug it out, but he looks, quite frankly, scared to get hit. In my opinion, Sean Strickland, everyone talks about how Sean fights defensively. No. In my opinion, Sean fights scared. I'm not saying he's scared of anybody he goes in there with, but you can see it, right? There's a big difference between someone like DDP, who literally fights fearlessly, and someone like a Sean Strickland. I would like to compare this Sean Strickland to the Izzy, right? Champion Izzy, who was shit on over and over and over again for how fucking boring he is, by myself included, right? I shit on him for how he fought against Yoel Romero. I shit on him for how he fought against Jared Cannonier or even Robert Whittaker the second time. This is worse. This is even worse from Sean Strickland. This is worse. And the way that he talks, it's inexcusable. For him to walk in the octagon, perform like that, I get it. We're not in there. We don't know what it's like. And like I said, I have to give him credit for the way that he absorbed that fucking shot to the nose, shattered his nose. You could see the grimace on his face. He did not like that at all, obviously, because he had his nose completely plastered to the side of his face at one point. He reset it, and in that last round, dude, DDP kept landing big shots on it, and you could see him trying to reset it once again. There were a couple times where a shot would land, and I would see it. I'm like, oh shit, the nose was misaligned once again, and then you would put it back in. Oh man, it was a tough watch, but just such a bore fest. It was only entertaining in moments because of DDP and his forward pressure. And dude, the volume, the sheer volume, the fact that he can throw so many big shots, whiff on some of them, and he never looked tired. And I believe it's because he was able to dictate the pace. Like, Sean Strickland does not dictate the pace of his fights. I've said that before. He just sits back. Yes, sometimes he plods forward flat-footedly and can put a counter striker, quote-unquote counter striker, like Israel Adesanya on the back foot. But when he is on the back foot, Sean Strickland has nothing to offer. Nothing to offer as far as danger. He just sticks to the absolute basics. He really does. And he's gaining himself no fans. And I hate the fact that he went out there and he proved all of his liberal, fucking weird Reddit haters correct in this fight. Right? He didn't get knocked out, right? Thankfully, because now they don't get to go running around peddling the footage of him getting knocked out. But you went out there and you fought like a fucking liberal pussy. Is that fair enough to say? Is it fair enough to say that Sean Strickland went out there and fought like you would expect a liberal pussy? And that's really just based on the way Sean Strickland speaks. You know, he brings it upon himself. I would trade all the trash talk from Sean Strickland for a good, enjoyable performance, from an aggressive performance where he's actually trying to finish the fight. I get it. It's not a walk in the park, though. Dricus is no one who's easy to fight, but like, this has nothing to do with the opponent. It's just how Sean fights every single time. I thought maybe he'd come in here with a little bit more vitriol, you know what I mean? Like really trying to hurt Dricus, but we just didn't get it again, man. That's why it begs the question: why talk? Why say all this shit? Why build the expectations up just to deliver a performance like that? You open yourself up for all of this criticism, right? Getting shit on by keyboard warriors like myself, I guess. You can consider me one of these right now. But you open yourself up for it. So just stop talking shit if you're not going to go out there and put on a fun performance. And that's it. If you're not going to take risks, don't act like you're going to. Don't talk like you're going to. Don't talk like you're some man's man. Go out there and fight. Not like a man's man. It's just as simple as that, right? But as far as Dricus, he looked great. I think better than ever. Very technical. The volume, for him to throw all that volume and not get tired is crazy. Yes, he looked like Donkey Kong on ice skates, a little bit unorthodox at times, of course. But it is still fun to watch. We did see some more layers here. He was just spamming the lead kick. Like the lead kick, whether it was to the leg, the body, the head, he's very fast with that. And that is a super, super impressive weapon of his. And he throws it in a very technical fashion, much more technical than when he lets like boxing combinations go. He looks a lot better when throwing kicks. And he mixed it up, dude. We just didn't really get to see him grapple too much. I was hoping to see him grapple offensively a little bit. Maybe give me some hope that he can deal with Hamzat on the ground, but we didn't really even get to see an example of that. But what a physical specimen Dricus is. It's hard to see him being physically dominated by anybody, right? So the potential upcoming fight against Hamzat Chimaev is very intriguing. I think it's a blockbuster fight. That fight is guaranteed action, whether it ends in the first round or goes all 5. That fight is guaranteed action because that's what DDP brings. So when I talk about how boring this fight was, how trash it was, it has nothing to do with DDP, it has everything to do with Sean Strickland. Of course, respect for absorbing the nose break, dealing with it, making it to the end. I respect that grit, right? So technically to the death, right? I actually believe that Sean Strickland does exemplify that, because when the going gets tough, Sean does not curl up like a little bitch and give up. No. He actually exemplifies that when it comes to him getting hurt and being put in moments of adversity. He does not give up. He's a tough son of a bitch. He absolutely is, but his fight style needs to change, or he's just not going to do himself any favors with the fans. And I don't believe that Dana White will gift him any more title shots going forward. We just really won't. This is like the third performance like this we've seen. His performance against DDP the first time was fun. It was fun. It was fun because of DDP, and he was actually more down for it, right? And he was picking up rounds in between, so there was more stakes, right? But for this fight, man, it just seemed like every single round Sean had nothing to offer. He looked a little bit smaller this time too. Maybe that played a part against him. But he just needs to be more active, or else I have no interest in watching Sean Strickland. I'll listen to him speak. I love his press conferences, maybe to an extent. Even this past press conference, it seemed like he was just going off his greatest hits and just screaming into the mic, whatever the fuck nonsense he can think. But I don't know, man. He's really fallen off for me as far as me being a fan of his. Although, if he's going to continue sharing his opinions on the internet, sure, I'll listen to the guy. And but that's really about it. When it comes to him in the octagon, fuck Sean Strickland. Do not give a shit. Could not give less of a fuck anymore. But let's get on to the rest of the card. And I will go from bottom all the way up to Zhang Weili versus Tatiana Suarez in the end. Maybe you guys prefer if I talk about Zhang Weili versus Tatiana Suarez now, but I'm just going to wait and go one by one. Quelin Salkild versus Anshul Jubli. I predicted a first round KO. He got the first round KO. Was it a bit of an early stoppage? Yeah, maybe, but he hit the ground very hard. And it was a stiff right hand that he took right on the temple. It was a bad shot. I think he would have been finished regardless, but if you want to complain that it was an early stoppage, I can honestly see the argument. I genuinely can. Then Jonathan Mikalev versus Kevin Jousset. I picked Kevin Jousset, and Jonathan Mikalev got the decision, deservingly so. Didn't look particularly great, neither did Kevin Jousset, but it was a pretty fun fight, I suppose. Then we get into Zhu Rong versus fucking Cody Steele. What a banger fight this was. Banger fight. I picked Zhu Rong. I forget if I picked him by knockout or decision. I think I maybe picked him by like second round TKO, and he could have gotten that too, man. He was amazing this fight. The fact that so many people were picking against Zhu Rong when he's so young and has the experience that he does, and he looked better than ever in this fight. Truly better than ever. I think he's with CKB. Maybe they're really honing in on his striking, man, because he looked fucking fantastic here. I want to see a fight Zhu Rong versus like a Ludovic Klein or Bahamondes, man. A gift. That would be a complete gift for us. Zhu Rong is an awesome striker. That third round, man, when he hit the flow state, I mean, he was really in flow state for a good majority of the fight, but the third round is when he really, really shined with that flow state. He looked so good. He saw everything coming at a point in this fight, and I cannot wait to see Zhu Rong fight again. Stop doubting this man. Stop doubting him. I don't understand why he was being picked and why he was even a betting underdog going into this one. It didn't really make sense to me. Then we get into Colby Thickness versus Alexander Topuria. Now, an interesting one here. Alexander Topuria won. A bit weird, though. Like, the narrative going around is that he won every single round. He was dominant, but I saw him losing round 2. Am I crazy in thinking that he was losing round 2? He was being outstruck, I would say, by a large margin. Then I looked at the numbers came up. Even DC questioned them, and John Anik questioned them. Like, is this really what's going on right now? But no, for me, Colby Thickness probably won round 2 and was actually putting hands on Alexander Topuria. It didn't make sense why it was such a unanimous thing for it to be like a clean sweep 30-27 for Topuria. But his boxing looked really good. He just wasn't active enough, right? And it was his first fight in the UFC. I think writing him off as if Ilia Topuria didn't give lackluster performances earlier on in his UFC career as compared to what he's been doing recently, right? You fight over fight, Ilia Topuria has shown great improvements, and I think we can expect the same from Alexander Topuria, even though he's the older brother, shows a very similar skill set, man. He's built like a brick shithouse, man. He is built like a bulldog, and when he lets those hands go, he looks just like Ilia, man. He moves just like Ilia. Everything is just like Ilia, and it looks like he could be an elite wrestler in that division too. I see him giving problems to a lot of the bantamweight division the more he picks up experience at the highest level. I understand the performance itself wasn't great, but like I said, UFC debut. The man has very little experience actually competing. Give him time. I think the fact that he looks so technical, right, and so powerful in there. He looks very powerful. That big right hand he landed on Colby Thickness, he's pretty much just like, he's straight up just the bantamweight version of Ilia Topuria, and I want to see this man fight again. I would say him versus Peyton Talbot would be pretty fun. Maybe even him versus Rinya Nakamura would be a good time. Give us those fights. Alexander Topuria looked pretty good. Colby Thickness, should he get a contract? There are probably worse bantamweights out there than Colby Thickness, so why the fuck not, right? Why the fuck not? Then we move on to Wang Kong against Bruna Brazil, and I picked Bruna Brazil here. Oh, sorry, to specify, I picked Alexander Topuria by, I think I picked first round finish. You could have got it, maybe, if you followed up more effectively with that right hand. But I just have to say, back on the topic of Alexander Topuria, when he landed the right hand, then he started letting those boxing combinations go. Tell me that you didn't think you were watching an Ilia Topuria fight. It's crazy how similarly they throw their shots and their combinations. It's a beautiful thing to witness. But yeah, Wang Kong versus Bruna Brazil. Bruna sucked. she sucked. She had nothing for Wong Kong the whole fight. In hindsight, I don't know why I picked Bruna Brazil. I thought maybe she had more to offer, but she was frozen the whole fight, landed really nothing of note. Wong Kong just put a beating on her, to be, quite frank. Bruna Brazil, tough to stay in there, but yeah, Wong Kong, she is business, and I would assume maybe like 1 or 2 more victories and she'll get a title shot just because of how dead women's flyweight really is. Then we get into Tom Nolan versus Vyacheslav Borshev. Dude, this fight was sick. I picked Tom Nolan to win this one. I forget if I think I predicted either a first round finish for Tom Nolan or it would be a 3-round war, and it turned out to be a 3-round war, which, listen, man, I'm more happy about a 3-round war than a first-round knockout. Tom Nolan looked sick. This was a display of his overall skill set. He reminds me of like a lightweight Corey Sandhagen, but he has more volume, and he puts more volume out there. He looks for the finish, whether it's on the ground, whether it's on the feet. I like Tom Nolan quite a bit. Same thing I said with Zhu Rong. We need Tom Nolan against one of these top strikers. Same thing, right? Bahamundes, Ludovic Klein. I want to see Tom Nolan against one of those guys, but better yet, Tom Nolan versus Zhu Rong, right? Why not? That would be a sick fight. Tom Nolan, I think, is one of the best strikers at lightweight right now. I want to see him fight a ranked opponent. He looked really good, really well-rounded. This was a showcase of his skill set. He's dangerous from everywhere. His up kicks were nasty. Elbows off his back were nasty. As I predicted in the clinch, like with his knees and elbows, he had Borshev beat, and really just everywhere it went. And he was styling on Borshev at one point. The combinations he throws on the feet. He is a joy to watch. I'm a huge fan of Tom Nolan. I was a big fan of him beforehand, bigger fan of him now. He looked amazing. Then Jack Jenkins versus Gabriel Santos. Really cool fight as well. Jack Jenkins looked like he was on his way to win, but these shoot-the-box guys, when they get hurt, everything changes apparently, and they become world beaters. And yeah, submitted Jack Jenkins in round 3. Really good fight, but Jack Jenkins is a tough dude, as is Gabriel Santos. This was a really, really good fight as well. Then we get into the main card here. Jake Matthews versus Francisco Prado. The Argentinian Drew Dober. As predicted, Jake Matthews by decision pieced up Prado. It was a great display of boxing from Jake Matthews. Really not much more to say. Prado should probably move down in weight, man. I don't know why he's a welterweight, but maybe he's too thick to make 155. But if I was to guess, I would say he could probably make 155, and I think he should make that cut because he looked much smaller than Jake Matthews in there. But yeah, great performance from Matthews nonetheless. Then and I also picked him. Did I mention I picked Jake Matthews by decision? I think I mentioned that. Then we get into Jimmy Crute versus Rodolfo Bellato. It was a fun fight. It was a really fun fight. It was a fucking war. It really was. A draw, I think. I don't know if I would say it made sense, but it also kind of does make sense. You know what I mean? Jimmy Crute started off very strong, and then the fight kind of slowed down a little bit in rounds 2 and 3, and I think maybe you could give those rounds to Rodolfo Bellato. I think it makes sense. But then again, maybe Jimmy Crute did enough to win the fight, but either way, it doesn't matter. I picked Rodolfo Bellato, I think, to submit Jimmy Crute. We did not get that, though. Then we get into Justin Tafa versus Talison Teixeira, and I think I picked Talison Teixeira by first-round knockout. We got it. Justin Tafa, him tied to Ivasa. Why are they in the UFC? I don't really understand it. Talison Teixeira, though, dangerous heavyweight, super big, super lanky. Dangerous. Is he another Robles de Spain? Hopefully he isn't. Then we move on to the co-main event, man. Weili Zhang versus Tatiana Suarez. Now, I way overestimated Tatiana Suarez and way underestimated Weili Zhang. In hindsight, it was foolish to pick against Zhang going into this one, considering the inactivity of Tatiana Suarez. It made all the sense in the world. And I just thought that Tatiana's wrestling would be stronger. But we saw in this fight, especially after the first round, Weili Zhang was able to hang with the best wrestler in women's MMA and was much better on the feet, landed a nasty right hand. I think it was in the second round on Tatiana Suarez, and Tatiana had nothing for Zhang. We need to see the fight with her. I can't even think of a matchup for her other than Shevchenko. I say she moves up in weight, fights Shevchenko. It makes all the sense in the world. That fight right there is the only fight in women's MMA that I give a shit to see. It would be the most technical and probably the best fight in women's MMA history. You could say maybe Shevchenko and Amanda Nunes, or Amanda Nunes and Chris Cyborg. The technique is not quite there. Like, Amanda Nunes succumbed to Juliana Pena's striking and pace. So, like, clearly Amanda Nunes, I mean, like for me, like, listen, I guess she's the best women's fighter of all time, But it's just such a terrible look to have a loss against Juliana Pena on your record. And I think, it really comes down to those heavier weight classes for the females just being so much less technical than the lighter weight classes, especially when you see Weili Zhang in there. Think about Shevchenko's performance against Grasso. We need this fight. It's the only fight, like I said, in women's MMA that would actually kind of pique my interest a little bit. Not even pique my interest. It would get me excited. I want to see that fight. We need that fight. Please, UFC gods, bring excitement back to the female divisions. If you want to fucking make us sit through these fights, at least give us a banger that we all want. And I don't think anyone would complain about Weili Zhang versus Shevchenko. Yeah, Zhang is the greatest female strawweight of all time. Female strawweight, as if there's a male strawweight division. But yes, she's the greatest of all time in that particular weight class. And it was a great dominant performance from her. We already spoke on the main event too. So that does conclude my thoughts on the card, man. Sean Strickland, fuck off. Just fuck out of here. Pick up a mic. Make podcast episodes. I will listen to you speak. That's it. No interest in watching you fight at all going forward. Have no interest in it. Split decision merchant. I know this wasn't a split decision, but he got completely dominated this time around. Like, Sean, man, either change up the style or stop talking like you're going to go out there and bang, because you do nothing to bang in there. You are no different than Israel Adesanya, pussyfooting around the octagon, and that's just how it is, man. That's just how it is. So anyway, guys, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you on the next one.